Well, welcome, Pauline Greenwich. It's wonderful to see you. We're here today to help SAIT students be a little more comfortable and more effective in behavioral interviewing. And it's something that we're all challenged with. And before we jump into this quick session, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, well, thanks, Tom. My name's Pauline Greenwich, and I am in the people investment business. And so what does that mean? My background's in human resources, and I've been an HR professional for over 20 years now, and helping people with career transition, career planning, as well as supporting individuals and other corporations be effective in their people practices. So this is great to get to talk about this today.
Well, yeah, thank you. And when I was putting together this final assignment, I thought, who's the best person to bring in and tell people about how to succeed in an interview? And I went through my little address book in my brain, and I thought, oh, it's got to be Pauline. So I thank you so much for doing this today. I'll just jump right in to first question. Some of these students will be fairly new to the workforce, certainly new to the full-time professional life that they've been getting ready for at SAIT. Going into that interview, a lot of them are going to get interviews fairly quickly. How are they going to handle those questions? What questions are they going to be asked? I'll just turn it over to you.
Yeah. So if you are, I think it's a great opportunity to share some key tips. But I think if you're a young professional or starting off with not a lot of work experience and you're stepping into a career type of role, it's really important to do a couple of key things. And one is to articulate your value. And sometimes we think that's tough to do because we don't have the experience that we think the employer will value. But if an employer is meeting with you, they understand your background and they know that you've got your education recently. So it's really being able to articulate your value and doing so in a way that the recruiter can understand. So what do I mean by that, Tom? It really is talking about the kinds of results that you've been able to achieve. And it doesn't matter if it's in a school project or if it's in a job, a part-time role, or even a volunteer experience. There's always, if you back into that, there's always opportunity to talk about what value did I deliver?
Very good. And, it's interesting because I always mention that, people are very nervous about their not having experience. And I say being new is almost like your superpower because, you're new. There's an expectation that you don't have all this experience. But I'm just curious if there's like specific questions, like what's your value? But when students answer those questions, how should they, construct that answer? What are the key parts?
The key parts, and some of your students may have heard of this, is the STAR formula. So situation, task, the action, and result. And so the situation is really just describing what was happening. You don't need to spend a lot of time on the situation. The recruiter is really interested in the action and the result. Okay. So, great results. Sometimes we think, oh, it needs to be numbers or it needs to have some sort of a value that is measurable in terms of a metric, but it can actually be you simplified something. Maybe you created an efficiency. Maybe you organized something that made it simpler. It could be even that you streamlined a process, or maybe you had the opportunity in your role to improve or increase sales, or you achieved a certain goal in your role, even though it's not related necessarily to the career you're looking at. It's creating value somewhere for someone, and that could be saving them time, saving them effort, saving yourself time and effort, or it could be creating a system or a way of doing things that's easier. And when we're new, you might be actually assigned tasks like that immediately to when you join an organization. And so helping them make the connection to that, I think, could be a real easy way to show value.
Yeah, and I was just thinking our students at SAIT do a lot of group projects and a lot of tangible results. A lot of those results are used by faculty like me or by administration at SAIT, and certainly by the external clients that our SAIT students go out and find and do change management plans for, manage projects, charity events, all those things. And I think perhaps if they can even talk about how they help their teams be a little more efficient. So, I took over the schedule and here's what I did,
Fantastic.
so
Yeah.
valuable.
Those are great examples, and your schoolwork is a great place to extract some of those, key results. Because really, what a recruiter is looking for is, are you aware of the things that you've been able to accomplish,
Ah,
right? And so, even you might not be kind of looking past some of those school projects, like your example of creating efficiency or effectiveness in my team, or I organized this piece, and that's the front end. And then what happened because you organized? Well, we got a great grade. We were able to raise money for
yeah.
our project, or whatever the objectives of the assignment were. You want to speak to that.
Yeah.
It's not bragging. You're really just taking ownership of the hard work that you did. And so, how fun is that?
And I think that's you're glad you said it's not bragging, because we're in an interview right now, not in this situation, but when when students go into an interview, the interviewer is almost looking for a little bit of self-promotion and pride. And it's okay to say, I'm really good at this and I made a difference here. Recruiters need to hear that. We need to tell people what we're good at and what we like to do.
Yeah. And so, having one or two accomplishments that you can speak to, so far we've talked about situation, task, action, result. That really is a great way to capture your accomplishments. And so that formula, STAR, is important because it helps you answer the question. So tell me a couple of key accomplishments you're proud of. That's a question that is a new graduate, or even someone newer in career, is going to get. What are the things that you're proud of and why?
Yeah.
Right? What are your accomplishments? And so that formula will help you kind of think about, oh, well, what did I do on the project, or even in my volunteer, or even if I'm working in a service industry job or retail, it doesn't matter.
Right.
What are the things that you're proud of and why?
Recruiters also want to know other stuff, like where we want to work, how we handle stress. I'm just wondering, what kinds of questions will they get in that area, and how do we respond?
Yeah. So, in addition to your accomplishments, you want to be able to speak to things like, how do you approach um, stress? Like,
Yeah.
how do you approach when you have multiple projects or multiple deadlines, or you have conflicts of time and energy? What happens? How do you handle stress?
Yeah.
And what they're looking for is for you, how reflective you are and how well do you understand that? And then how does it impact the people around them? You're not really trying to game an answer here. They just want to understand your specific way of handling stress. You might say, well, I take a breath, or I make a list, or they're looking for, what are your methods for managing that? Because in any career, you're going to run into it. So they're wanting to know how you handle it. And so that's going to be a key question. I think another one would be is, how do you approach things when you don't know the answer? So it's something new I've never done before, which is, for all of us, this has happened.
Yeah.
Then how do you handle that when you don't know what to do? You're uncertain. And the answers they're looking for, how do you handle uncertainty or ambiguity? Do you forge ahead? Do you ask for help? Do you take a pause and try and understand or ask questions? Like, what are the things that you do to manage through that? And again, we're not looking for, and a good recruiter will know if you've tried to rehearse this answer. All they want to know is, how do you handle it?
Yeah.
And what are the things that you do? And if you've never, and there might be actually looking for an example. Let's say you're a server in a restaurant and you had multiple tables and your colleague didn't show up for work. And so now you had to take on all of the tables. How did you handle that situation? It's not specifically related to your actual project management role or whatever the career job is, but it gives us a good indicator of how you handle when things are uncertain or you have competing priorities.
Excellent. Another thing that we're starting to get asked a lot about is kind of our preference with where and how we work, and because and certainly it helps to go into an interview with having done some research. So about work environment and the company, what would you recommend in that area?
Just to be clear about your preferences. So, a lot of recruiters will ask, and this might be in a screening interview or it could be in a second interview, what's your preferred work environment? And what they're looking for in a preferred, what is the answer is really just what's the situation that you perform in best? Is it with a lot of people around you or not? Of course, we're working more and more in a distributed workplace. So it may be that you're actually interviewing virtually and then you end up starting a new role virtually. And over time, you may go into a hybrid or even a full office or work environment where you're working with other people. But they're really trying to understand what is the place and how do you work best. So is it around other people? Are you collaborative? Do you prefer to get together with people, then go off and do your own work? There's really no right or wrong answer with that. They're just wanting to understand what is your most effective style. And you might not know that yet. So, and that's okay. You say, you know what? I'm not, I'm open.
Yeah.
That's the way I can answer that is I'm open to either. I'm really excited to learn.
Yeah, and I'm very impressed with the students that I've met in this short time, because last year they were they were in class, then online. Now we've been back in class, and there was a couple days where something happened and we had to go online again. So it's super nimble, super agile. Love coming together in groups, but you can count on them to get work done on their own too. So it's really impressive these days.
Yeah. And even just highlighting that you're comfortable with online technology, which obviously in your courses, it sounds like that might have already happened, but there's so many platforms and the ways of collaboration are quite varied now. So even just highlighting, I'm good with collaboration tools. And here's some that I used in my school projects, or here's some that I've done at volunteering work or other part-time jobs that you may have had, will be helpful as well to share that.
Super. And last question. Of course, we want to go in knowing something about the company that we're going into, but often we're not sure what to research or what to emphasize or anything like that. What do you suggest, about learning about where you're going?
Well, this is really important, and it's often something that's overlooked, not just by people stepping into new careers, but even by seasoned professionals. And that is, we know that you're looking for a role because you've applied. So what we're looking for is, why did you apply to us? And what is it that you know about our organization? So what are we currently facing in our organization? Did we recently expand? Did we acquire something? Are we going through a difficult downturn, but we still need your kind of talent? Wanting to understand what's going on with the organization so that you can speak to it and say, here's how I see myself fitting in. There's good learning opportunities, and then be specific about what those are, right? That match up to you. I understand you have big projects and small ones. I'm looking to do this, and your company is doing that. Right. And so making, the connection, actually calling out that specifically to make the connection for the recruiter. Recruiters see so many people, they see so many resumes. You can stand out by actually doing a little bit of homework on what's gone on with them in the last year. And if you feel that their values or something else really is exciting and interesting to you, articulate that to them.
And I have one more question for you. Here we are in this, probably one of the biggest changes we'll all see in our working lives, in our whole lifetime, was COVID and how it impacted things. I know everyone, no matter where you are in your working life, is facing a lot of uncertainty. But we know that, if we just persevere and keep applying and keep trying, will eventually get that job. But I'm just wondering what advice you would give somebody new to the workforce who's just sees this huge change that we're all dealing with, a little overwhelmed by it, and just wondering how they're going to fit. How do they go forward for the next 20, 30, 40 years?
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
I think having a strategy for yourself, and it's a strategy that will evolve. So you don't need to have it chiseled into a tablet forever, because part of, Tom, what you're highlighting is that the world of work is changing.
Yeah.
So much of the way that we approach work is changing. So career continuity resides with you. And so in the past, our parents or our grandparents may have stayed with an employer and maybe had different jobs with that employer. Those opportunities are still there, but the likelihood, for many of us, is the average Canadian in a lifetime probably is going to have 15 jobs or more,
Right.
which sounds outrageous, but actually it isn't. And the continuity is you and your skill set. In every role that you step into, you're going to learn something, or you're going to help somebody else learn something over time. And so in the beginning, the key pieces are getting clear on the value that you bring, and that you're going to add more value over time. Everybody adds value, so that's not an issue, but you will add more value over time. And then where you want to stay visible. So, during the pandemic, we saw a huge increase. 6 times, people who are on LinkedIn probably have 6 or 7 times more exposure to recruiters than those who aren't. So LinkedIn is your online Rolodex. So you want to make sure, and some of you may not even know what a Rolodex is,
Yeah.
but it's really where you keep all your contacts. So they're not in your Outlook calendar anymore. They're not in your desk drawer. They're going to be on LinkedIn. So always use an email address that stays with you. Keep that connected to LinkedIn. Stay present on LinkedIn, even if it's only once a month. And then manage your career as you are the career, right? Not the career and you're in it. You are the career. You're your own hub. And I think that's a way that you can think about it. And also, it also helps you kind of think about, well, when somebody says, tell me about yourself, right?
Yeah.
Well, who am I? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I am, in project management, or I'm this career, I'm in HR, whatever the career is. And these are the things that I do well, or that I'm looking to grow in. And
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this today. I can't wait to just post this video, and I think it's always such a positive experience speaking with you. So just to recap, Pauline Greenwich, you run a company called Upward HR. And just for the viewers, I know your career has evolved quite a bit over time. What did you start out doing, and what are you doing now?
Wow. Well, I started out sort of with a liberal arts background. I worked in post-secondary schools for a while in administration, and then I stepped into consulting with a big firm, and we did HR consulting. And I go, wow, this is really interesting. And so I went and got some more experience education in HR, working in large companies. And then I stepped out a few years ago on my own, and I've done all kinds of work in the human resources field, whether it was recruiting or working as an HR manager in a large firm with learning and development. So I've had all kinds of experiences, and I would encourage your students to think about, don't be too tied down, be flexible and open to the opportunities, because remember, if you're your own hub, you're creating your own career, and it can have all kinds of different lines going in and out of it. But yeah, my journey has been an interesting one, but a fun one too.
Well, thank you so much, Pauline. And this conversation was fun. And let's hope that maybe in the spring we can do it again for the next group of students that are, heading out in that world of work to make the big changes that you have done too. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Tom.